In 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio detected a signal from deep space that lasted exactly 72 seconds. It was strong, it was narrow, it appeared near a frequency astronomers had long considered one of the most logical places to search for intelligent life. And then, just as quickly as it arrived, it vanished. The signal has never been confirmed again. No message followed, no second burst appeared. No source has ever been identified. For nearly 50 years, astronomers have searched for the exact same signal, tested natural explanations, considered human interference, and re-examined the old data with modern tools. Every explanation solves part of the mystery, but none has closed the case. So the question is not simply whether this was a signal from another civilization. That is only the most famous possibility. The deeper question is harder to answer. What produced the famous unexplained radio signal ever detected, and why did it never happen again? The story begins with a telescope that did not look like the giant dishes most people imagine when they think of radio astronomy. It was called Big Ear, and instead of moving freely across the sky, it mostly stayed fixed while Earth's rotation swept the universe through its field of view. Every day, the sky drifted overhead. Every day, the telescope listened. By the 1970s, Big Ear had been turned toward one of the most ambitious scientific questions ever asked. Are we alone? The search was based on a simple idea. If another civilization existed somewhere in the galaxy and wanted to be noticed, it might use radio waves. Radio signals can cross enormous distances, and a narrow signal concentrated into a very specific frequency is not usually what nature produces. Most natural cosmic radio sources are messy, broad, or repeating. A clean, narrow-band signal stands out. Astronomers were especially interested in the region around the hydrogen line, near 1420 megahertz. Hydrogen is the most common element in the universe. Any technologically advanced civilization studying the cosmos would likely know that frequency. To some SETI researchers, it seemed like a natural meeting place on the radio dial. This is what made the signal so strange. On August 15th, 1977, Big Ear picked up a powerful narrow-band burst from the direction of Sagittarius. Because the telescope was fixed, it could observe any point in the sky for only a short window as Earth rotated. A real source fixed in space would be expected to rise gradually, peak as it crossed the center of the beam, and then fade away. That is exactly what happened. The signal filled the telescope's full observing window, 72 seconds. It rose, peaked, and declined in a way that looked consistent with something coming from the sky, rather than a random burst of local noise. It was not a voice. It was not a decoded message. It was not a sequence of alien symbols. The famous characters printed on the datasheet 6EQUJ5 were simply a record of intensity. But one character mattered more than the rest. At its peak, the signal was far stronger than the background noise around it. When astronomer Jerry Ehman reviewed the printout days later, he immediately recognized that something unusual had appeared in the data. He circled the sequence in red ink and wrote one word on the margin: "Wow." That handwritten note gave the signal its fame. But the name also captures why the event has never disappeared from scientific memory. Most strange detections are quickly explained. A satellite, a plane, a loose cable, or a software error. A known astronomical source. The WOW signal resisted all of those easy answers. The first possibility was the obvious one: human interference. Earth is loud. Radio telescopes do not listen from silence. They listen through a planet surrounded by broadcast towers, radar systems, satellites, aircraft, electronics, and accidental transmissions. Many false alarms in radio astronomy come from our own technology. But the WOW signal was difficult to dismiss that way. It appeared near a protected astronomical frequency where human transmissions were restricted. It also behaved like a point in the sky drifting through the telescope beam, not like a nearby transmitter randomly blasting the receiver. Still, interference cannot be ruled out completely. A signal from Earth could theoretically have reflected off a satellite or a piece of space debris. That would make something local appear to come from space. Even Jerry Ehman later considered that possibility. But this explanation has problems. A reflected signal would need to appear in the right frequency, with the right timing, in the right direction, and mimic the smooth rise and fall expected from a celestial source. It would also need to avoid appearing again when astronomers searched the same region afterwards. Possible does not mean convincing. That is the pattern that follows every explanation for the WOW signal. Each one is possible. None are fully satisfying. Another theory suggested that the signal came from a satellite, but satellites move. They usually leave clues in their motion and frequency drift. The WOW signal did not behave like a normal satellite pass. It appeared stationary relative to the sky for the time Big Ear observed it. Then came natural astrophysical explanations. Could it have been a pulsar, a quasar, or a flare from a distant star, or some unknown burst from deep space? Nature is capable of producing extraordinary radio signals. Pulsars send regular beams across space. Magnetars can unleash violent bursts of energy. Fast radio bursts can flash across the universe in milliseconds, with staggering power. But the WOW signal does not fit neatly into any of those categories. It was narrowband. It lasted 72 seconds, because that was the telescope's observing window, and most importantly, it never repeated. A natural source might flare once, but it would still need to explain why the signal was so clean and so close to the hydrogen line. For decades, that left the most famous possibility hanging over the entire case. Could it have been artificial? A deliberate transmission from another civilization would explain some of the most unusual features. It could be narrow, it could be strong, it could appear near a frequency that intelligent observers might recognize. It might even be brief if the transmitter was sweeping across space, aimed only temporarily in the Earth's direction, or not intended for us at all. But this explanation has the biggest problem of all. A signal from an intelligent civilization should be confirmable. Science depends on repeatability. One signal, seen once by one telescope, is not enough to claim contact. Without a repeat detection, there is no way to study the source, decode a pattern, confirm a location, or rule out every alternative. The WOW signal is not evidence of aliens. It is evidence of something unexplained, and that distinction matters. Over the years, astronomers repeatedly returned to the region where the signal appeared. They searched with Big Ear, they searched with more sensitive instruments, they searched at the original frequency and nearby frequencies. Nothing matched it. That silence became a part of the mystery. If the signal came from another civilization, why transmit only once? If it was a natural event, why has nothing quite like it been seen again from that same region? If it was interference, why did it look so much like something fixed in the sky? Then, decades later, another explanation entered the story. Comets. The comet theory proposed that hydrogen clouds surrounding comets in our solar system could have produced the signal. At first glance, it sounded promising because the WOW signal was near the hydrogen line. If a comet was in the right part of the sky, perhaps Big Ear had detected hydrogen emission from the comet's cloud. But astronomers pushed back. The comets proposed were not clearly in the right place at the right time. Comets are also not known to produce signals strong and narrow enough to match the WOW detection, and the theory struggled to explain why the signal appeared the way it did. Like many WOW explanations, the comet idea was interesting, but not enough. More recently, scientists have revisited the case using archived data and modern analysis. One newer hypothesis suggests that the WOW signal may have been a rare natural brightening of hydrogen gas in space. In this scenario, a cloud of neutral hydrogen could have briefly amplified radiation from a powerful cosmic event, producing a narrow burst near the hydrogen line. This explanation is important because it tries to solve several problems at once. It offers a natural source, it explains why the signal was near hydrogen, it could also explain why the event was brief and difficult to repeat. If the alignment between a radiation source, a hydrogen cloud, and Earth had to be nearly perfect, then catching it once would be rare. But this theory is not proven. Some scientists consider it promising. Others remain cautious because the exact physical conditions required may be unusual, delicate, or not yet observed in the same form. It may eventually explain the wow signal, but for now it remains a hypothesis. That is where the mystery stands today. Not solved. The wow signal has become more than a strange line on a printout. It is a warning about how difficult the search for extraterrestrial intelligence really is. Everyone imagines first contact as a clear message, a signal that repeats, a pattern that confirms intelligence, something unmistakable. But what if the universe is not that generous? What if the first hint is brief, ambiguous, and gone before anyone realizes what happened? What if the most important signal ever detected looks, at first glance, like a few letters and numbers on a sheet of paper? The wow signal sits at the edge of one of the biggest questions in science. The galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars. Many of those stars have planets. Some of those planets may be old enough, stable enough, and complex enough for life. If intelligent civilizations are out there, why has the sky been so quiet? This is the heart of the Fermi Paradox. The universe seems like it should be full of possibilities, but when we listen, we mostly hear silence. Maybe intelligent life is rare. Maybe civilizations are short-lived. Maybe they do not use radio for long. Maybe they are listening instead of transmitting. Maybe their signals are too weak, too brief, too distant, or aimed somewhere else. Maybe we have not searched enough of the sky for long enough. Or maybe we have already detected something extraordinary, and we simply do not have enough information to prove it. That is why the wow signal remains so powerful. It does not prove that we are not alone. It does not prove that someone tried to contact Earth, but it also refuses to become ordinary. Nearly half a century later, it still sits in the records as a signal that looked exactly like the kind of thing SETI was designed to notice, then vanished before science could ask a second question. There is a strange loneliness in that. A telescope listened to the sky. For 72 seconds, something answered. Then, the universe went silent again. Maybe it was interference. Maybe it was a rare natural phenomenon. Maybe it was a cosmic accident we still do not understand. Or maybe, for just over a minute, Earth heard a whisper from somewhere beyond our world. The honest answer is that no one knows. And that is why the wow signal still matters. It reminds us that the search for life beyond Earth may not begin with a flying saucer, a landing, or a message we can read. It may begin with uncertainty, with a signal too brief to confirm and too strange to forget. For now, the most famous candidate for extraterrestrial communication is not a conversation. It is a single unanswered question, written in red ink on a page of numbers.